There is a quiet moment that arrives before every turning of the calendar, a breath the world takes when it stands between what has been and what might still be possible. In that space, you can hear the old year loosening its grip, dropping the weight it has carried, asking you a single, honest question. What are you willing to set down so your hands can be free? You have walked a long road to arrive here. Your shoes are worn with effort, your pockets heavy with memories, some sweet, some sharp enough to cut. And yet you are still standing, still breathing, still capable of beginning again. Before 2026 opens its door to you, there are things that must be released, not because you are weak for carrying them, but because you are strong enough to let them go. Release the belief that your past is a prison with locked doors and no windows. What happened to you may have shaped your outline, but it does not own your future. You are not the sum of your worst days, nor are you defined by the moments when you did not know better, could not do better, or were not given better. The past is a teacher, not a judge, and its lessons were never meant to chain you to the floor. Carry the wisdom forward, but leave the shame behind. Let the old stories soften. Let them rest. You are allowed to grow beyond the chapters that once hurt you. Release the habit of waiting for permission to live boldly. Too many dreams have been delayed because you were taught to be small, to be polite with your power, to ask before you step into your own light. But life does not send engraved invitations to those who are ready. It responds to those who move. Your voice does not need approval to be heard. Your ideas do not need applause to be valid. The world changes because someone decided to stand up, speak out, and act as if their presence mattered. Yours does. Release the fear of being misunderstood. There will always be people who see you through the narrow windows of their own limitations. Let them. You were not born to be translated into a language that denies your truth. If you bend yourself into shapes that make others comfortable, you will wake up one day unable to recognize your own reflection. Speak with clarity. Live with honesty. Those who are meant to understand you will find their way. Those who are not were never meant to hold your story. Release the weight of comparison. The thief of joy does not arrive loudly, it slips in quietly, whispering that someone else is ahead, doing better, living bigger. But your life is not a race with lanes painted by strangers. The timing of your becoming is sacred and specific. What blooms early may wither sooner, and what grows slowly often stands the longest. Measure your progress by your own healing, your own courage, your own capacity to love more deeply than you did before. The only person you are meant to outgrow is the one you used to be. Release the need to control every outcome. Control is often disguised as responsibility, but beneath it lies fear. The belief that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. There is a wisdom greater than your worry at work in the world. You can plan with care and still leave room for grace. You can prepare with diligence and still trust the unfolding. Life has a way of meeting you halfway, when you stop demanding that it obey your every command. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving in to the truth that you do not walk alone. Release relationships that drain your spirit and dim your light. Love is not meant to feel like a battlefield you must survive. If you are constantly shrinking, explaining, apologizing for your existence, something is wrong. You deserve connections that breathe with you, that celebrate your growth, that hold you with kindness even when they challenge you to be better. Let go of the loyalty that costs you your peace. There is no honor in staying where your soul is not safe. Release the belief that rest is laziness. You were not created to be a machine grinding itself into dust for the sake of productivity. Rest is a form of resistance in a world that profits from your exhaustion. When you pause, you listen. When you listen, you remember who you are. Your worth is not measured by how much you can endure, but by how fully you can live. Allow yourself the radical act of stopping. The world will not end because you chose to breathe. Release the habit of self-betrayal. Each time you ignore your intuition, silence your needs, or abandon your boundaries, a small part of you learns not to trust yourself. Healing begins when your yes means yes and your no is honored even by you. Pay attention to the quiet signals your body sends, the unease in your chest, the calm that follows a brave decision. You are your own first home. Treat yourself with the respect you seek from others. Release the bitterness that has taken root in your heart. Anger has its place. It can alert you to injustice and ignite necessary change. But bitterness is anger that has nowhere to go, and it corrodes from the inside out. It steals your sleep, your laughter, your softness. Forgiveness is not forgetting what happened or excusing harm. It is choosing not to let pain dictate the rest of your life. Set the burden down. You have carried it long enough. Release the illusion that there is a perfect moment waiting somewhere in the future. Perfection is a moving target that keeps you standing still. Life is happening now in the imperfect, unfinished present. Begin before you feel ready. Love before you have all the answers. Speak even when your voice trembles. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. Let this be the year you stop postponing your joy. As 2026 approaches, imagine yourself standing at the threshold, hands open, shoulders unburdened. Feel the space where old fears used to sit. Notice how lightness invites possibility. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being invited to return to yourself, to the part of you that knows how to rise after falling, how to sing after sorrow, how to hope even when hope feels fragile. The future does not demand perfection, it asks for presence. Carry forward what strengthens you. Leave behind what breaks you down. Walk into the new year with your head high and your heart soft, knowing that release is not loss but preparation. You are making room. You are choosing freedom. And in that choice you are already becoming more than you were. Letting go of the need to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it is one of the most liberating acts you can undertake. Many of us spend our lives trying to convince others of our value, believing that if someone acknowledges our talents, our efforts, or our character, it somehow confirms our existence. Yet the truth is, worth is not something granted externally. It is something inherent, something that has always existed inside of you, even when no one else recognizes it. When you repeatedly seek validation from those who cannot or will not see you, you are handing over your power, placing your self-esteem in the hands of someone else's perception. There will always be people who are unwilling to recognize your light. Some may be blinded by their own fears, insecurities, or judgments, while others simply choose not to look. Trying to prove yourself to such people is like shouting into the wind, hoping it will carry your voice to a receptive ear that isn't there. Every argument, every explanation, every effort to be enough for them can drain you emotionally and mentally, leaving you exhausted and disconnected from your own truth. Over time, this constant need for external approval can distort your sense of self, because you begin to measure your value through the eyes of those who cannot comprehend it. The key to freedom lies in realizing that their refusal to see you is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It is a reflection of their own limitations. Their inability to recognize your worth is about them, not about you. Understanding this allows you to step back from the exhausting cycle of justification. You no longer have to explain, defend, or plead. You do not need to perform to be acknowledged, because your existence, your being, and your contributions are valid regardless of whether someone else appreciates them. When you release the compulsion to prove yourself, a profound sense of peace emerges. You begin to invest your energy in relationships and spaces where your presence is respected and valued naturally, rather than fighting for recognition where it will never come. You stop allowing your mood and self-perception to be dictated by the approval of others. You become the anchor of your own validation, learning to trust your instincts and your judgment. Silence can become a powerful answer, and walking away from those who refuse to see you is an act of strength, not defeat. This act of letting go does not mean shutting off from people or becoming indifferent. It means establishing boundaries, understanding where your responsibility ends, and recognizing that some people will never be able to acknowledge your truth, and that is their limitation, not yours. It means valuing yourself independently of their opinions, honoring your own voice, and allowing yourself to grow and shine without external permission. As you practice this, you notice a transformation. The weight of needing to be seen lifts, and you stand taller, freer, and more aligned with your authentic self. You begin to realize that your worth is constant, unwavering, and entirely yours to claim, and that anyone who fails to notice it has missed an opportunity, not deprived you of anything. The addiction to approval and applause is one of the quietest but most persistent chains a person can carry. It creeps into your life in subtle ways, whispering that your value is dependent on others noticing, appreciating, or praising you. From the moment we are conditioned to seek external validation, we begin to measure ourselves not by our own standards, but by the reactions of those around us. Every compliment becomes a temporary boost, every criticism a blow that shakes our self-esteem. We begin to live cautiously, tailoring our words, actions, and even our dreams to fit into what we believe will be accepted. When you are addicted to approval, every decision is filtered through the lens of how it will be perceived. You hesitate to speak your truth, choosing silence over conflict. You hold back your ambitions, fearing that others might disapprove or question your worth. You may even alter your personality, trying to fit into molds that were never meant for you. This constant seeking for recognition is exhausting because no matter how much praise you receive, it is never enough. The hunger for approval is endless. People often mistake the need for applause as confidence, but it is not. It is insecurity in disguise. It signals that you are relying on external sources to confirm your own existence, rather than trusting the inherent value that has always been yours. Approval may feel comforting for a moment, but it is fleeting. Once the attention fades, doubt returns, and you are left questioning yourself once more. Over time, this cycle can erode your sense of self, leaving you dependent on others to feel validated, instead of cultivating your own internal assurance. Breaking free from this addiction requires courage. It requires facing the discomfort of living without constant validation and trusting that your worth is not contingent upon applause. It means accepting that not everyone will understand, appreciate, or celebrate you, and learning to be okay with that. It requires setting boundaries and valuing yourself independently of others' opinions. When you stop seeking approval, you begin to notice a sense of liberation that is difficult to describe. You speak your truth more clearly, act according to your own values, and allow yourself to pursue what truly matters to you. Your happiness becomes quieter but more authentic because it is no longer dependent on outside recognition. Letting go of the need for approval does not mean becoming indifferent or harsh toward others. It means reclaiming your power, recognizing your inherent worth, and living with integrity. You begin to understand that those who fail to acknowledge you are not depriving you. They are simply unable to see what you have always known about yourself. Your confidence no longer wavers based on applause, and your actions are guided by what is meaningful rather than what is acceptable. Over time, this shift transforms the way you engage with the world. You stand taller, not because others lift you, but because you have lifted yourself. You begin to realize that the most profound recognition is the one you give yourself, and that internal validation creates a peace and strength that no external praise can match. Letting go of emotional clutter from unresolved conversations is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your peace and clarity. Life has a way of piling up words left unsaid, apologies unoffered, and grievances unaddressed, and over time, these accumulate like invisible weights on the heart. Each unresolved conversation carries with it fragments of emotion, frustration, regret, confusion, anger, sadness that linger long after the moment has passed. When we hold on to these fragments, we are essentially living in the past, tethered to events and exchanges that we cannot change, yet allowed to control our present. Many people avoid confronting unresolved conversations because they fear discomfort or confrontation, believing that silence will protect them from further pain. Yet, what is left unsaid often speaks louder than words. Every time you replay a conversation in your mind, dissecting what was said or left unsaid, you are giving your energy to someone else's words and actions instead of anchoring it within yourself. This constant mental replay drains your emotional resources and creates a tension that can spill into all areas of life, relationships, work, and even your sense of self-worth. The longer you carry this clutter, the heavier your emotional burden becomes, and the more difficult it is to move forward with clarity. Releasing these emotional weights does not necessarily mean reopening every conversation or seeking closure from everyone involved. Sometimes closure is internal, a quiet acknowledgement that the conversation happened, that feelings were stirred, and that you have the right to let them go. It is a conscious decision to stop letting old words and unresolved exchanges dictate your emotional state. You can honor the experience, learn its lessons, and still choose to release its hold over you. By doing so, you create space for fresh energy, deeper focus, and more genuine connections in your present life. Holding onto unresolved conversations often comes from a place of attachment to outcomes or the desire to be understood. You may feel that if the other person had listened, apologized, or validated your perspective, things would be different. But reality does not always bend to our expectations, and waiting for it to do so keeps you trapped in a cycle of disappointment. Letting go is an act of self-respect and self-preservation. It allows you to reclaim your emotional sovereignty. It signals that your peace is more valuable than being right or being heard, and that your heart will not remain hostage to someone else's unwillingness to communicate. As you release this clutter, you may notice a subtle shift in how you relate to yourself and the world. Your mind feels lighter, your thoughts clearer, and your capacity for presence grows. You become less reactive, more grounded, and better able to engage with life on your own terms. Emotional clarity emerges not from avoidance, but from the deliberate act of acknowledging, processing, and letting go. This practice strengthens your emotional resilience, teaching you that unresolved conversations are not chains, but invitations to release, to forgive, and to prioritize your own inner calm. Over time, letting go of this clutter transforms the way you carry yourself, allowing you to move through life with a lighter heart, a quieter mind, and a deeper sense of freedom. Stopping the habit of reliving moments you cannot change is one of the most important steps toward inner freedom. Time flows in one direction, and yet, too often, our minds refuse to move with it. We replay the past over and over, examining every detail, wishing we had acted differently, spoken differently, or chosen another path. Each replay is a subtle act of self-punishment, a way of holding onto moments that are gone and will never return. The more we cling to what has passed, the less room we create for the present, and the less energy we have to shape the future we desire. The mind has a way of magnifying the past, turning ordinary mistakes into monumental failures, and minor regrets into lingering grief. When you dwell on what cannot be changed, you assign power to events and people who no longer exist in your life. You begin to carry invisible baggage, and it accumulates with every memory replayed, making it harder to move forward. Reliving these moments can become a silent addiction, because in some ways it feels familiar and safe. The pain, though unpleasant, is predictable, and your mind clings to it instead of facing the uncertainty of the unknown. Letting go does not mean forgetting or denying that something happened. It means accepting the reality that the past cannot be altered and choosing to stop letting it dominate your emotions. You can acknowledge the lessons learned, honor the growth gained from those experiences, and still release the need to revisit them constantly. Every time you replay a regret or a painful memory, you give away your energy to the past instead of investing it in what is possible now. Freeing yourself from this cycle is a conscious act of self-compassion and empowerment. When you stop reliving unchangeable moments, you open the door to presence. You begin to notice the small details of your current life that were previously overshadowed by past regrets. The laughter of a friend, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet satisfaction of a task completed. Your mind becomes quieter because it is no longer overburdened by what ifs and if onlys. Emotional space is created, allowing you to respond to life from a place of clarity rather than reacting to echoes of the past. This practice also teaches humility and self-forgiveness. You recognize that mistakes are part of being human, that you acted with the knowledge and capacity you had at the time, and that every misstep contributed to the person you are today. By releasing the grip on what cannot be changed, you reclaim your power to shape your present and future. The energy once spent on regrets is redirected toward growth, action, and meaningful engagement with life. Over time, this shift transforms your inner world, reducing anxiety, enhancing focus, and allowing joy to arise unencumbered by old memories, and helping you cultivate a sense of freedom that comes from truly living in the moment. Releasing scarcity thinking and learning to trust your own abundance is one of the most transformative shifts you can make in life. Scarcity thinking is the voice in your mind that whispers there is never enough time, never enough money, never enough love, never enough opportunity. It convinces you that the world is a limited place and that every gain for someone else is a loss for you. This mindset keeps you in a constant state of tension, anxiety, and comparison. It blinds you to the possibilities that exist around you, and it prevents you from seeing the resources and opportunities that are already present in your life. When you operate from scarcity, you are always chasing, never satisfied. You hoard your energy, your emotions, and even your knowledge, fearing that giving will leave you empty. You measure success by what others have, and you define your worth by what you lack rather than what you possess. Every achievement feels fleeting, and every setback feels catastrophic, because your focus is always on the perceived limits rather than the possibilities. Scarcity thinking creates a lens of fear, making the world appear smaller than it truly is, and convincing you that you must fight for every crumb of attention, opportunity, or love. Trusting in abundance begins with a change in perspective. It requires acknowledging that life is far larger and more generous than the narrow vision scarcity imposes. Abundance is not just about material wealth, it is about recognizing the richness of experiences, relationships, creativity, and inner strength that already exists within and around you. When you trust in abundance, you begin to act from a place of confidence and generosity. You share your ideas, your time, and your resources without fear, because you understand that giving does not deplete you, it multiplies what you have. Releasing scarcity thinking also requires breaking free from comparison. The temptation to measure your progress against others is a trap that scarcity thinking lays perfectly. But when you trust in your own abundance, you realize that your journey is unique. Your opportunities, timing, and path are different, and they are enough. The success of someone else does not diminish your potential, and the achievements of others can even inspire and expand your own sense of possibility. As you let go of scarcity, you begin to notice gratitude arising naturally. You recognize the resources you already have, the support around you, the talents you possess, and the moments of joy that were overlooked when your mind was focused on lack. Gratitude is the gateway to abundance because it shifts your attention from what is missing to what is present. It allows you to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles, and it opens your heart to give and receive freely. Trusting in abundance transforms not only your mindset, but also your actions. You take risks with confidence, pursue goals without fear, and invest in relationships without hesitation. You begin to see that the world is not a zero-sum game, and that life has a way of expanding when approached with faith rather than fear. Over time, this mindset fosters resilience, creativity, and a deep sense of security, because you no longer rely on external circumstances to validate your sufficiency. You understand that abundance starts within, and that trusting yourself is the first step toward living a life of fullness, generosity, and freedom. Letting go of resistance to becoming your highest self is one of the most profound acts of courage and self-honesty you can undertake. Resistance comes in many forms: fear, self-doubt, comfort in the familiar, the voices of others, or the weight of past experiences. It whispers that you are not ready, that you do not deserve more, or that stepping into your full potential is too risky. Yet, every moment spent resisting your growth is a moment that keeps you from experiencing the depth of life that is possible when you fully align with who you are meant to be. To release this resistance is to acknowledge that you are already enough, that you have the capacity to rise, and that the limitations you perceive are often illusions you have inherited from others or constructed yourself. Resistance often appears as fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of change. Fear convinces you that staying in the known, even when it is uncomfortable or unfulfilling, is safer than venturing into the unknown. It is a cunning form of self-protection, disguising itself as caution, but in truth it keeps you small. When you allow fear to dictate your choices, you deny yourself opportunities for growth, for joy, for fulfillment. Releasing this fear does not mean that fear disappears entirely. It means that you learn to act in spite of it, to let your desire for a higher life outweigh the hesitation that holds you back. Each time you step forward despite fear, your courage strengthens, and the chains of resistance begin to loosen. Self-doubt is another major form of resistance. It is the voice that tells you that you are not capable, not talented enough, or not deserving of success. It convinces you to settle, to compromise, and to accept less than your potential. Yet, self-doubt is often a reflection of the expectations, criticisms, or insecurities of others, internalized and worn as truth. To release this resistance, you must separate your self-perception from the judgments of the world. You must trust your instincts, your abilities, and your vision, even when the noise around you tries to convince you otherwise. Self-doubt loses power when you focus on consistent action and small victories, allowing your achievements to become proof of your capability rather than relying solely on external validation. Comfort in the familiar is perhaps the most subtle form of resistance. You may know that you are capable of more, that you are meant for greater things, yet you cling to routines, relationships, or environments that feel safe. Comfort tempts you to remain stagnant because it is predictable, and stepping beyond it requires effort, vulnerability, and uncertainty. Releasing this resistance involves embracing discomfort as a teacher rather than an obstacle. It means understanding that growth rarely occurs in zones of ease, and that the life you envision demands that you stretch, risk, and experiment. Every time you step beyond comfort, even in small ways, you signal to yourself that you are capable of more than you once believed. External voices, expectations of family, society, peers also feed resistance. People may unintentionally project their limitations, fears, or judgments onto you, shaping your belief in what is possible. Listening too closely to these voices can keep you from discovering your true potential. Releasing this form of resistance requires cultivating inner authority, discerning which guidance serves your growth and which constrains it. It demands that you honor your intuition, embrace your unique path, and make decisions that reflect your highest self rather than someone else's comfort or approval. Past experiences, especially those of failure, rejection, or loss, also create resistance. When you carry the weight of what has happened before, you may hesitate to pursue your full potential for fear of repeating mistakes or experiencing pain again. Yet every experience, whether deemed success or failure, carries lessons that prepare you for higher levels of achievement and understanding. Letting go of the past does not mean forgetting it. It means integrating the lessons and moving forward unburdened by regrets, guilt, or lingering doubts. Releasing resistance also requires letting go of perfectionism. Many people delay their growth because they feel they are not yet ready, that the timing must be flawless, or that conditions must be ideal. This illusion keeps you in perpetual preparation, preventing you from taking meaningful steps toward your highest self. Perfection is never the prerequisite for progress. Action, learning, and persistence are. By embracing imperfection and trusting in your capacity to adapt, you allow yourself to step fully into your potential, without waiting for external conditions to align perfectly. Self-sabotage is another subtle expression of resistance. It can appear as procrastination, indecision, or distraction, often unconsciously used to avoid facing the demands of growth. The mind may create excuses, rationalizations, or diversions that keep you from pursuing what truly matters. Recognizing and releasing self-sabotage requires awareness and accountability. You must confront the patterns that hold you back and replace them with consistent habits and intentional actions that align with your higher vision. When resistance is released, a profound shift occurs within. You begin to operate from alignment rather than reaction, from purpose rather than obligation. You recognize opportunities that previously went unnoticed, take bold steps without hesitation, and embrace challenges as catalysts for growth rather than threats. Your energy becomes focused and potent, no longer diluted by fear, doubt, or hesitation. Relationships, work, and creative endeavors flourish because you are fully present and fully committed to your own evolution. Releasing resistance also deepens your relationship with yourself. You cultivate patience and compassion for your own journey, understanding that growth is a process, not a destination. You celebrate incremental victories while remaining committed to long-term transformation. You become resilient, able to navigate setbacks without losing sight of your potential, and adaptable, able to respond to change with grace and confidence. As you let go of resistance, you also inspire those around you. Your courage becomes contagious, your example a beacon for others to pursue their own growth. You begin to understand that your highest self is not only a personal achievement, but a contribution to the world, as your alignment and authenticity create ripples that influence and uplift others. The release of resistance allows your energy to flow freely, your vision to expand, and your life to reflect the fullness of your potential. You start to recognize that the journey toward your highest self is ongoing. Resistance may appear again in subtle forms, but your awareness equips you to confront it with clarity and intention. Each step forward builds momentum, each act of courage reinforces your strength, and each moment of trust in yourself diminishes the power of fear, doubt, and limitation. By continuously releasing resistance, you create a life that is fully yours, rich with possibility, and aligned with the deepest truths of who you are meant to become.